And for a $278,000 PAC, the accounting fees were less than 1%. Again, that seems very odd. So then there were other PAC donations made, again contributing to this, we don't know where the money's really coming from, and making it very confusing. So the next slide. So the plot thickens, and this is why I put some handouts together. But down here, you can see there's a PAC, and this is administered by Mr. Robinson, Volusia Good Governance PAC. Its total contributions were $22,000. Pat Neal gave 20 grand to Volusia Good Governance. Volusia County, you know, the names of these PACs can also be misleading, right? Sarasota, what does Sarasota County have to do with Volusia? Okay, so Volusia then gives $20,000 to Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota. Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota gives 20 grand to Making a Better Tomorrow. And Making a Better Tomorrow is an active PAC with right now $560,000 in donations. So your handout needs updating. Now, if you look at who's donated to Making a Better Tomorrow, you will see Benderson, 20 grand. You will see Greg Zittani, who is the attorney for Mr. Kompopikras at West Coast Law. There's Robinson Hanks, and this is huge. You see, I find the newspaper has often allowed Mr. Robinson to get away with the claim of, I'm just the accountant. I don't have a dog in this fight. $170,000 donation to Making a Better Tomorrow? I think you might have a dog in the fight. It's a lot of money. The other donations were a lot of money too, but this one is new. And Culture Land Partners developed the View in downtown Sarasota. Paul Bispham sits on the planning board. Bill Merrill is a land use attorney. His office has got one right down the street. I-Card Merrill. William Saba. James Gabbard. Does anybody know James Gabbard? Yes. James Gabbard sits on the Sarasota Charter Review Board. We have a county charter in Sarasota, and we have a Charter Review Board. He sits on there. He is the individual who wanted to build an industrial dump next to the celery fields. And my particular tea leaf reading, Paul Caragiulo, who I've got issues with how he's voted, but he voted against the industrial dump in the celery fields. And Paul Caragiulo voted against putting a trucking depot right in the same area, which is 42 acres of public land near the celery fields that is supposed to be developed mixed-use walkable development. So Paul Caragiulo, in my book, did the right thing on those two votes. What's happened is Paul's decided he's not going to run. And Christian Ziegler, Bridget's husband, has decided he's going to run. My particular thought is Paul Caragiulo cost these guys and Mr. Gabbard a lot of money. And I'm guessing, it's just me, that he was sat down and told, we're not going to support you. We're putting up our own guy. And for my money, the only person in Sarasota County that could primary Paul Caragiulo, because he has great name recognition, is somebody with great name recognition among Republican primary voters, and that person, and the only one I think, is Christian Ziegler. For my money, he hasn't been involved. He's very involved in national politics, but he'd be a newbie at the county level, and this would be very concerning. Okay, so Making a Better Tomorrow has hired and paid money to 360. Anybody know why 360 was in the news recently? I know Shirley was, but yeah, why?
Some questionable social media practices.
Yes. The school board hired 360. Okay, so Eric Robinson's on the school board. School board hired 360 to do their public relations, which that in and of itself concerns me. 360, the Herald Tribune found, was creating fake social media profiles. They traced it to the IP address. And 360 in the past had been commenting on Herald Tribune articles on behalf of their clients, which, you know, were people like the Whole Foods at University in Monterey, where they were paving over a wetland. 360 had fake social media profiles saying, this is a great idea and I can't believe people are against it, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, the school board did fire 360 when they found that out. This $180,000 direct mail express, these expenditures have been made recently. Okay? I don't know which race they're for or when, but it just speaks to the organization that's happening here. There's 180 grand lined up for some race well ahead of time. So Making a Better Tomorrow also gave to Eric Robinson's campaign, and you can see 90 grand went to another Robinson PAC, Build Something That Lasts, Citizens for a Conservative Future. And Citizens for a Conservative Future was funded by Benderson Corporation, Schrader Manatee Ranch, Pat Neal, Greg Zittani, again, Gary's lawyer, Bob Lecter, Gulf Coast Builders Exchange, and again, Bill Merrill. Bill Merrill. And you've got another $41,000 going to consulting, polling, and research, and a $6,000 accounting fee. So again, the disparity in accounting fees is noteworthy. I think I have to check myself because it can get confusing, but I'm thinking I don't have an accounting fee here because there may not be any for Making Better Tomorrow. And I can look that up when we're done. But I want you to also notice the consulting and polling that goes on. These races are taken very seriously. They are polling and trying to find what message is going to make sure, you know, it's going to work in local races. So for those people who think, oh, I don't even know who they are, well, these guys are spending a lot of money to make sure that their people get in office. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. This isn't in your handout, but I'm just going to go off track a little bit here and talk about a particular developer, Schrader Manatee Ranch. Do y'all know Schrader Manatee Ranch, what they developed? Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
We're in it, right? Lakewood Ranch. So this speaks to, again, when you have just a handful of guys across the state, I don't know any women PAC managers, but a guy like David Ramba or Eric Robinson, there are a few others. Who's to keep them from picking up the phone and saying, look, I've got somebody here, we don't want to do the PAC shuffle at all, but he'll put money in your guy's till if you put money in my guy's till. And then no one, there won't be, it's just our conversation. That can happen. The way the system is set up right now, that can happen. In 2008, Schrader Manatee Ranch donated to a St. Johns County PAC, St. Johns County, St. Augustine, clear across the state. I don't know any reason why they would have a dog in that fight or care. This was a PAC, there was a charter issue, they were going to have a county charter. Are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? And Schrader Manatee Ranch made a $20,000 contribution to a PAC that put out mailers. I believe they were saying no. And so voters in St. Johns County, the pro-PACs were transparent. There was no money shuffle. People knew who was advocating for this, but the anti-PACs, the against the charter PACs, were doing stuff like this. And so just, you know, purely on that level, these folks had no idea who's stuffing our mailboxes telling us things. They have no apparent interest in our county. So let's go to the next slide. No, back one. Nope, number 10. There we go, okay. So how profitable is it for developers to fund campaigns? So I'm just going to ask, like, this goes through, this was a a 6-year process that yielded a huge windfall for Schrader Manatee Ranch. So in 2003, in 2050, the Sarasota 2050 plan, if you can just look at me for a second, 2050 plan in Sarasota County is a development plan for the East County, the land east of I-75. And it goes like this. Rural land east of I-75 is zoned for one house per 160 acres, a farm, or the most dense it is one house every 5 acres. You can't build a lot, and for that reason, it's cheap. The land is cheaper, right? Especially if it's one house for 160 acres, it's farmland. So, you're billed at an agricultural rate. Sarasota County said in response to developers who wanted to build out east, okay, you can do this, but here's how we're going to let you do it. We'll let you build more densely, but you have to cluster the development. It was like the idea of if you've ever flown over a European city and you see the villages outside the city, there's farmland all around, open space, right? Whether it's farmland or not. But then you have a little village. So the idea was, in Sarasota County, we're going to have villages in our rural areas, and we're going to maintain all this open space. Okay, so in 2003, Schrader Manatee Ranch owned much of the acreage south of University Boulevard, right? Right now, it's being built as the villages of Lakewood Ranch. So it's between Fruitville and University. The very far end of that is a parcel called Gum Slough. So it's got a water feature and it's beautiful with birds and all that. Schrader Manatee Ranch also, under the Sarasota 2050 plan, if they did their open space, they could build 5,000 dwellings, right? If they clustered it and did what was required under 2050. Well, Rex Jensen struck a deal with the county. And the county, Sarasota County, has an environmentally sensitive lands program. We tax ourselves, so we have a pool of money to buy land for conservation. And we can do it 2 ways. We can buy the land itself, or we can buy the development rights. And transfer of development rights is an idea that came about, I think, in New Jersey when farmers were being tempted with millions and millions of dollars in offers, but there was a public interest. We need our farms. So you know what, Mr. Farmer or Ms. Farmer? We're going to pay you $5 million for your development rights, but you're going to keep it as a farm. So we're going to let you have your profit, but you're going to keep farming. Same idea with environmental conservation. We want to preserve this land, but we understand you're giving up development rights, so we're going to pay you for them. Okay, so in 2004, Schrader Manatee Ranch sold the development rights for Gum Slough, sold 2,500 units to Sarasota County through the Environmentally Sensitive Lands Protection Program, and they sold it for $7 million. So Sarasota taxpayers paid Schrader Manatee Ranch $7 million. Now, what did they get? We had $7 million less, but we retired 2,500 units, Schrader Manatee Ranch. They wound up with $7 million, and instead of 5,000, they got 2,500 units left. 6 months later, Rex Jensen, I call it belly aching in the newspapers. This is what they always do. 2050 doesn't work. It's not financially viable. I can't make enough of a profit. This plan's terrible, blah, blah, blah. To which John Thaxton said, look, you can have the development rights. He said he wanted more development rights. You can have the development rights, or you can have the money, but you can't have both. 6 years later, they gave him both, okay? Because what they did was they awarded Schrader Manatee Ranch 2,500, they rechristened it open space credits. So they restored Schrader Manatee's 5,000 units, and Schrader Manatee Ranch kept the money.
They kept it?
Oh yeah. This was a 6-year game and defrauded Sarasota County taxpayers of $7 million. And I can tell you, I hang with a crowd that was paying attention, pays attention. And I was looking at it saying, because I started paying attention closely in 2008, and land use I was really still learning in 2010. I was running for the commission, but I was really concerned about some economic development giveaways and stadium stuff. So this was kind of new to me, but I sat there and is what I think happening really happening? And it was. And Dan Lobeck, who is the name people, Dan Lobeck said, yeah, I can tell you, even the people on the boards that I served on did not realize. Okay, because this is the long game. 6 years. But the payoff was $7 million for nothing. We got nothing. So, what's $20,000 or $50,000 for a commission race when the potential payoff is millions and millions?
But how can they do that?
That's what they did.
And no one highlighted it in the papers and no one explained it.
I did.
Crazy.
I did, but I did it a few years later. I can tell you that the progression of what happened was documented in the newspaper, but they never pulled it all together. And think about the news we get these days. That's how it is a lot of the time. We get a piece here and a piece there, but the long view is rare.
But
You
why
just,
weren't they sued?
it was
As
legal.
a taxpayer. You're defrauded out of $7 million. You're
This-
standing.
Was legal.
Representatives.
This was legal.
Yeah.
This is our job as voters, frankly, okay? And the PAC game is legal. But we need different leadership, you know? Now, just to tell you a little more about this, when they were trying to change the 2050 plan well, they did change it. I wrote an op-ed and I spelled this out. I wrote an op-ed for my column for SRQ magazine, which got published. I can tell you my editor was nervous. We both kind of were like, what's going to happen? They stayed completely quiet. No one said, no one made a peep. Rex Jensen didn't make a peep. But when I sat down with the Observer and I had an article which spelled all this out, and I had the documentation, and I was just told what a great guy Rex Jensen is. So one of the challenges of local politics is, and people who know me say, look, everyone's a nice guy. Let's just start there. Everyone's a nice guy. But if we're not willing to call out our neighbors on this, forget changing the state or the national level. This is terrible, and it happened.
I don't think people can follow it though, but that's the problem.
Well, it is. It's a 6-year process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Memory is very short. So
Yeah.
if it's like less than 10 months, they cannot put the two together because.
Who's they?
They is the population.
They is us.
They is us.
They is we, me, you. This is our
And
responsibility.
reporters.
Yeah, well,
No
yes,
one-
but,
No one looks at 2050.
well,
And no one follows this process.
well, I do.
I know you did, but then, you know, like.
And I wrote about it.
And when somebody starts.
So, but let me ask you this, and I mean this with great love and kindness. How many of you can name your 5 county commissioners?
Now I can.
Okay? So, we is us. This is our problem. This is more than I usually see.
But I have a question.
Sure.
The commissioners represent us,
They,
supposedly. Let's say we all voted for these commissioners, right?
yeah?
They represent us, the public. And if the public comes and shows them this and says, okay, what's wrong with this story? Can you help us? We're the public, you represent us.
They don't
Isn't
care.
there something we can show?
Here's why. I can speak to Sarasota County, okay? The reality is that when the voter goes in there, Sarasota's mostly a Republican county. It's been a 50 years of Republicans, okay? And that's not to say, because I've just saw something really horrendous by Democrats in the Sarasota City Commission. So nobody's hands are, like, no one's pure here. But 50 years of Republican rule in Sarasota County. What does that really mean? Okay? What it means is the real election is in August. Okay? Because what you've got in November are people who don't know anything about this. They know the national, they know the state. I was one of them back before I was paying attention. And they're checking a party box. And, oh, well, you know, I'm a fiscal conservative, so, you know, I think the Republicans, I mean, my life's pretty good. Unless the fire's in your backyard, right? And then people wake up. Like the celery fields was a fire that was in a lot of people's backyards, and they cared about that. But most people, their lives are, you know, so they go in November and they check the party box. And in Sarasota County, I call it the bobblehead Republican vote. They just go in and check their, they don't even know. In fact, my best campaign volunteer, because I ran as an independent. I've been an independent, I had been for 34 years. And Jim Lampel was in Venice. He's doing the slides. And he did exit polling in Venice. And he asked voters, who did you vote for in the county commission race? They were like, I don't know. And he said, well, did you vote for John Thaxton? They were like, yeah, I voted for him. Thaxton wasn't on the ballot. It's funny, it is, but it's terrible too, right? I mean, this is us. We don't know. And this is why, you know, we're getting ripped off.
That's why we should vote by mail. So you
Well,
can
but
take the
That's
time.
true, yeah. So you know what, I just have a few more, so let me go through those and then we can finish. Okay, this is just to show you, this is again a misleading, you know, Northeast Florida conservative values. It's an Eric Robinson pack. I don't know why it's called that. Again, the accounting fee, you can see here, but it's got a donation from Santa Monica, California. 10 grand from Danny Wimmer, Santa Monica. Why is somebody in Santa Monica donating to a PAC named after North Florida run by a Sarasota guy? I have no idea. Okay, but that's bizarre. Leadership for Florida's Future is a Jensen Beach PAC that has $2.2 million in donations. So, you know, there's a lot of money out there that can influence our races. Okay, so the next slide. Got to go up to number 12. You have to get, one more. Okay, all right. Build something that lasts is a local, now I have not seen local PAC reach this level, okay? But here it is, $1.7 million. Although, you know, it's Eric Robinson's PAC. And there's all kinds of money in it. Mostly, it's not Sarasota money. This guy owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, 235 grand.
Wow.
Yeah, but here's the one that I'm concerned about, Gary Chartrand. And this is he's out of the northeast part of the state, and he is a very prominent advocate for charter schools. Very well known. Yeah. So this has the potential, I mean, the money is out there because the school board race, I don't know about Manatee County, the school board race in Sarasota County, we've got Bridget Ziegler, who won. Eric Robinson. How many people do you think voted for Eric Robinson? Nobody. His name wasn't on the ballot. Why? He ran unopposed. Why? 2 people filed to run against him. Would you want to run against a guy who had $6 million in the bank, who could pull? Who wants that? But this is the reality of our system now. You know, we can't get it.
He did extensive opposition research on anybody who put their name forward.
Yeah, and you can see they're willing to, I mean, they committed, Bob Wechter committed identity theft. He committed a felony against a Republican because he didn't think she wasn't going to do what they wanted her to do. So Eric Robinson, nobody's voted for Eric Robinson. Eric Robinson's on the school board because no one ran against him. I was curious when I went in the voting booth because I was going to deliberately leave it blank. I thought, well, I wonder what the undervote will be, if anybody really knows. Oh my God, he's not even there. So, if you're a PAC manager, so let me just finish, okay? Because you can see some of this money went to Citizens for Our Schools, and again, you can look at the magnitude of the research. Look at that, $282,000. So now, let's look at slide 13. This one is my favorite. Gotta go back one, Jim. Okay. All right, so here we're coming full circle. Here's Citizens for Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota. And these are actually on our county website. Sarasota demands accountability, had over 60 grand in contributions. Again, the Robinson Hanks Law Firm, there's Bob Wechter, there's the Bendersons, Pat Neal, Carlos Baruch, Hugh Culverhouse was in there, Henry Rodriguez, Gary Compothecras. All right, so you see the same names. Some of these guys get refunds. They spend 20 grand on mailers, and then they gave the rest of the money to this PAC, Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota. There's the Lucia Good Governance with their 20 grand, the Committee to Protect Florida's Seniors, Manatee for Common Sense, all the leftovers were just basically to hide Pat Neal's 20 grand from Volusia, you know, that went from Pat Neal to Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota. And, okay, this is a Benderson donation of 10 grand. Now, it's really bizarre. I worked in sales. I called on doctors, pharmaceutical sales. So I know a lot of the doctors from Naples to Bradenton and beyond. Why would a Naples physician donate $108,000 to a Sarasota County PAC? It's not even listed on the state, okay? It's on the county. And then you've got another one giving 60 grand and another giving 8,700. Here's a Venice doctor giving 14 grand. Big, big money. The accounting fee, $1,500 for this $280,000 PAC. Political mailers, $10. But what was the big expense for Citizens Have Rights in Sarasota? Chris. They wrote a check for $140,000 to, and they called it a consulting fee, to an LLC called Robbie's LLC. And the owner of that LLC is Eric and Christine Robinson.
Wow.
Now, Eric Robinson is calling for the elimination of salaries on the school board, to which I say, hey, if you can get a six-figure consulting fee from your PACs, who needs a school board salary? And who are you really working for anyway? It's foolish, in my opinion, to think that he's representing us. Okay? This consulting fee on Christine Robinson's financial disclosure in 2014, when she was a county commissioner, she listed $7,000 in income for Robbie's LLC. Where did the other $133,000 go? I don't know.